Hey there guys, we're taking a look at Amnesia, The Dark Descent, running on the i5-1135G7. Now this classic horror game is running at 1080p with the highest possible settings, and the performance is actually pretty decent. The only thing that I don't have on is the SSAO, and really the reason for that is just that SSAO usually tends to actually use up a lot of performance, but for the most part in this game it actually wouldn't have been that bad, but the performance is so good without it that I just would rather play with SSAO off. Now there will be certain sections where the game will actually dip below 60, and 60 is what the game is currently locked to. There is no way of unlocking it. VSync is already off, but the game will just not go above 60. Again, perfectly fine. The screen on this laptop is only 60 hertz anyway. The 1% lows though, you will see dip down, but it's a little misleading. It says 17, but it's only in specific situations. You'll see this frame time chart there, where you'll occasionally have those small little spikes, and those are usually when those 1% lows happen, and they tend to be mostly just triggered by like events in game and stuff like that. The screen might start to shake and stuff like that, and the FPS might drop, but it usually will not affect gameplay at all. But this 2010 horror game definitely runs very well on here, which is to be expected really because of the fact that it is just such an old game, and it was at the time also a relatively easy game to run, relatively speaking. It's certainly interesting to see it running on a low-end chip like this because, you know, back then, I mean, this was the game everyone was playing. I guarantee you, if you grew up in the mid-2010s watching YouTube, your favorite content creator at some point at least owes some of their success to this game. Before Five Nights at Freddy's showed up and just kind of took over the culture, there was a time where these like smaller indie horror games were kind of just popping off all over YouTube, and Amnesia was like the big one, the one that kind of like kickstarted a lot of people's horror game career. Certainly funny to think that this franchise pretty much peaked with its first game. Everything that they've released since then has just been chasing a lightning in the bottle situation that I don't think they will ever be able to recreate. And while I feel like the other entries in the series just are not worth really putting any time into, this one still has some nostalgic factors to it, and it's legitimately a pretty interesting horror puzzle solving game. Certainly if you're into more Lovecraftian horror type games, this is up there, and it's still one of those games that manages to capture that atmosphere better than a lot of modern horror games, because a lot of modern horror games kind of go down the route of there is a monster and you have to either hide from the monster, fight the monster, or even it's a player controlled monster and you will be, you know, player survivors versus a monster. But here the entire idea is that there are monsters and demons and stuff like that, and you can do nothing about them. You could try to run away and hide, or you could try to find your way around them, but actually going up against them is going to be relatively impossible. And a lot of the times the horror comes from just trying to figure out what exactly is even going on and whether or not what you're seeing is reality or not. I certainly think this game is definitely worth giving a go, especially on this chip, because it just runs so well. So if you completely avoided the whole Amnesia craze, this might be a good time to come revisit it and maybe even see where a lot of the ideas behind your favorite modern horror games originally came from. I mean, as dated as this game might seem, it did lay the groundwork for a lot of modern horror game development. So anyways, I hope you appreciate a look back at a classic horror video game that is more exploration and puzzle solving than just pure horror. But Amnesia for sure is a game that is just dense with the atmosphere, and I think you're gonna really get sucked into this. And again, don't let those 1% lows mislead you. It's usually just areas where things are loading, or you just go into a new area and things kind of have to render out. Within the first couple of seconds of entering a new area, the performance levels out perfectly fine, and you'll be stuck at a 60 FPS average for the duration of it. So anyways, I appreciate you guys watching. Be sure to subscribe if you're not subscribed, and I will see you guys later.